Is Nanoless leaking private client messages to the public as well as publicly stating termination of said client considered bad? That's what we're going to try to figure out in this video. This video is going to have chapters and everything I'll be covering. The video has already been covered. Just bringing attention to the point that, hey, is it considered bad for a professional artist to post private client messages to the public as well as their termination of said client to the public? Keep in mind this video is going to be heavily biased because I'll be injecting my personal opinion and interpretation regarding this. Now, to start things off, let's go ahead and go to Nanoless's Google Doc. So, the main thing we're going to look at here in Nanoless's Google Doc is these screenshots here. The screenshots between Nanoless and Redacted. Now, the big thing here is these are most likely private DMs between Redacted and Nanoless, and I can say that for almost certainty because in Sinder's apology, she literally states that in regards to Nanoless, for the majority of the time working with her, Red was the one almost solely doing the communication about new plans and negotiations through his private DMs, which makes sense because at the time, Redacted was Sinder's manager, so it makes sense that the manager kind of handles all of this. Now, here's the thing. These are private DMs, and she posts this all over her doc. But before we continue, is Nanoless a professional artist? And yes, according to Google, yeah, she is a professional artist, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people knew that already. She is primarily known as a VTuber and illustrator working with anime-style art and character design. She has also done work and models for other VTubers, and has been involved in controversies regarding her work and professional relationships, which further solidify her status as a working professional in the field. Now, I asked Google, now that we know that Nanoless is a professional artist, we've established that, I asked Google, hey, is it bad for an artist to publicly post their client's messages to the public, private client messages to the public? And Google says this. Yes, it is generally considered a bad practice and can have serious legal and ethical consequences to leak a client's personal message to the public, and goes into detail about why this could be considered wrong. 1. Breach of trust. Clients share personal information with the expectation that it will be kept confidential. Leaking the messages violates this trust and damage the professional relationship, which is shown true because, you know, Nanoless decided to take screenshots and then plaster them on a Google Doc and then send them to a social media platform X for all to see. So yeah, there is that. 2. Potential legal and regulatory consequences. Depending on the nature of the information and the applicable laws, leaking client messages could lead to legal action or regulatory fines. Regulations like GDPR and CCPA protect personal data and require businesses to safeguard it. For professionals in certain fields, breaching confidentiality can result in disciplinary action or even the loss of their professional license. 3. Reputational damage. Leaking client information can significantly harm a professional's reputation, potentially leading to a loss of clients and business opportunities. It can also negatively impact the brand image of the organization or business involved. 4. Emotional and psychological impact on the client. Having personal messages leaked can be a deeply upsetting and violating experience for the client. It can cause emotional harm, stress, and damage their trust in others. In summary, leaking a client's personal message is not only unethical, but also carries significant legal and professional repercussions. It is crucial to prioritize client confidentiality and handle personal information with the utmost care and respect. Now, if you don't believe me about Nanoless plastering this on X, let me just go ahead and show this real quick. Yeah, no, she posted that on X for everyone to see. So let's just keep that in mind. Let's just keep that in mind. Now I asked Google, hey, would anyone be willing to work with someone that leaks private client messages? Google says, working with someone who has leaked client messages to the public is generally not advisable in most professional contexts due to several significant risks and concerns, such as legal and regulatory consequences, such as breach of confidentiality, civil lawsuits, criminal charges, fines and penalties, loss of trust and reputational damage, such as erosion of trust, reputational harm, and industry blacklisting, and operational financial risks, such as competitive disadvantage, financial losses. Now, in conclusion, the risks associated with collaborating with someone who has demonstrated disregard for client confidentiality are substantial and far-reaching, encompassing legal liabilities, reputational damage, and operational consequences. Essentially, if you're working with someone that leaks private client messages to the public, be very cautious, because who knows, maybe your messages will be next. And then, in Nanoless's X post that I showed earlier, she says, terminating my work with Sinder. Just there, it's kind of hard to miss it. And I asked Google, is it bad to publicly announce you're no longer working with a client? And Google says, publicly announcing the termination of a client relationship can be problematic for a few key reasons. 1. Breach of confidentiality. 2. Damage to reputation. And 3. Loss of professionalism. And then Google says, hey, instead of doing that, there are some good practices. Instead of public declaration, consider the following best practices, as Google states. Communicate directly and privately with the client. A formal letter or direct conversation is preferable to a public statement. Be professional and avoid emotional language. Focus on the facts and reasons for the termination without being accusatory or disrespectful. Fulfill all contractual obligations. Ensure all necessary work is completed and proper notice is given based on any agreements in place. Maintain client confidentiality. Do not disclose any confidential information shared during the relationship. Offer assistance with the transition. If appropriate, refer the client to other professionals or resources that might be a better fit for their needs. Learn from the experience. Reflect on why the termination occurred and how to improve future client relationships. In specific cases, such as when a client poses a danger to themselves or others, ethical guidelines might permit or even require limited disclosures to appropriate authorities. However, such instances are exceptions and should be handled with extreme care and according to the professional standards and legal requirements. Now, the biggest thing here is communicate directly and privately with the client and be professional and avoid emotional language. Now, about that, communicate directly and privately with the client. Let's look at that one real quick. So, did Nano, ahead of time, talk to Sinder Redacted saying, you know what, I don't like the way you're treating me, I think we need to terminate? Did Nanoless do that instead of publicly posting on X? Well, of course the answer is no, because she posted it for everyone to see, so that's already bad. That's showing amateurism, or showing amateur behavior, to say. And then, not only that, this is further corroborated with Sinder's statement that she says in her apology. Nano had also never come to me as seriously and professionally as her document was looking to address the issues she had with either of us, or to terminate our partnership. That literally means that Nano didn't reach out to Sinder or Redacted privately to handle this. They didn't. Now, going back to this one, be professional and avoid emotional language. Focus on the facts. Let's go and look at Nanoless's Google Doc real quick. Okay, so if we go to the first part, the introduction note section, she states, I want to share my experience with Sinder and Red manipulating me, using me and dragging me into drama while sabotaging, slandering, and spreading lies about people I thought were closest friends. Not only do I no longer wish to work with Sinder, but I want to share what I've endured over the years and shed light on what she has been doing behind people's backs to protect artists and friends that may be experiencing something similar. Sounds good on its face, right? Like, oh no. So then she states, I struggled a lot with writing this document and wasn't sure if what I felt and experienced working was real or just burnout, but I think this proves that I was lied and manipulated over the course of years while working with Sinder. Okay, this is more going into like assumptions here. There isn't really a lot of facts. This is her gut feeling. And remember, focus on the facts. Now, she goes on to say, note, based on working with Redacted and Sinder over the years, that I am sure they speak for each other, and there is no reason to believe Red was acting without Sinder's consent and knowledge. Whenever I use they or them, it refers to both of them acting as a team. Okay, that's bad. This is full-on assumption mode now. For those of you that don't know, managers don't tell their talents everything. And here's the thing. Does managers tell their talents everything? And I've talked to this about it, I put it in Google a lot, and so far the answer is the same. Generally, no. While transparency is vital in the workplace, managers don't tell their employees everything, and some information needs to remain confidential. The fact that she makes this assumption and goes off of that shows that she ain't focusing on the facts. She's going off of a gut feeling. And then she makes the assumption they clearly knew everything that they were doing without clear evidence backing that up. Because remember, be professional and avoid emotional language. Focus on the facts and reasons for the termination without being accusatory or disrespectful. Here's the thing. Nanoless is being accusatory by stating, hey, right here, Whenever I use they or them refers to both of them act as a team. That's accusatory right there. You're accusing them of they knew everything, they were in cahoots. But the thing is, if you go to Cinder's apology, right? A good way to debunk that, assuming like everything here is true, she says, I had no idea there was even a conversation about Shylily recently between Red and Nano until reading her document. She doesn't know this. And then she even says here, she was not fully aware of the extent of Red's manipulation over Nano's commission decision. I should have been more diligent in my oversight. So she knew some of it, but she didn't know everything. Saying that they knew everything is false. Saying that they knew some of it, okay. But the fact of the matter is Nanoless saying that, like, Red was acting without Cinder's consent. There is no reason to believe Red was acting without Cinder's consent and knowledge. Okay, let's look further into her apology. And she talks about Bow. Oh, no. Not only that, she talks about the exclusivity deal. We can just look at that. Regarding the exclusivity deal made between them, I had no part in the direct negotiation of their financial agreement, and I had no knowledge of Bow and God being included in this list. If I had known my friends were included, I would have said something to put a stop to it. I was only aware of it being one person who I was unfairly pursuing, which is Silverveil. And then, so she doesn't know everything, but she knew some things, right? Which means, like, Cinder didn't consent to all of it if she didn't know all of it. And then she says this, I do not condone anything about what Red said about Bow in these DMs either, and him using we in our this context is abhorrently incorrect, and I believe this was done to gain greater credibility behind what he was saying. She didn't condone any of this. This literally just, if this is all true, this literally debunks what Nanoless was saying about, like, oh, all of the messages that Red sent had Cinder's consent and knowledge. No, this is blatantly false. That is going back to this. That is accusatory. That's full-on accusatory, at least in my personal interpretation of this. Okay, so let's go to Powdur's doc real quick. So in Powdur's doc, you can see here on April 25th, 2025, Shylily, Nanoless, and Bow make the decision to post the docs publicly on Twitter. At no point were Sinder or Redacted contacted privately about that. This is petty amateur behavior. As a professional artist, you know, maybe you should contact them privately, as shown here, but they didn't. They turned it into this whole drama. So, Sinder and Redacted did the mature thing. They reached out to Nano to see what was going on, to my understanding. Here's what Nano does. And this is from the YouTube video. Shylily fully debunks all of Cinder's apology by the YouTube channel A Daily Dose of VTubing. Oh, Ryan Reynolds!
Samsung are teaming up for an incredible new deal.
Cool. Anyway.
Everything went live, and you know what she's done? The first thing they both did, they messaged Nano.
As you should.
Nano
Professional.
You know what that absolute fucking giga chat did? Her pussy's so fat, bro. Blocked. Blocked. Her pussy's so fucking fat for that. Blocked.
No. That is disgusting petty amateur behavior. Sinder and Redacted did the mature thing. They reached out to Nanoless, and Nanoless blocked them. Nanoless full-on blocked them. And then, here's the thing. I go here, and I wonder, hey, did any of them actually, you know, reach out to Sinder Redacted, you know, to, like, handle this privately, to be like, hey, man, I don't like what you're doing, can you stop that? Did they do that? Did they do that at all? Well, according to Shylily, they did once, and this is found on the VOD Back to Business, We Cooking More Drugs Today or Maybe Try Oblivion, April 28, 2025, by the YouTube channel Shylily VOD, and she says this.
Fucking place. People saying, why didn't you handle this private? We did once. We did. And she's only deflecting and pretending to be apologetic.
She says once. And here's the thing, guys. If you look through the VOD, she only says, we did once, and doesn't elaborate on that. So what happened? Did they or did they not? Because according to Sinder, Nano didn't reach out to them. And as far as I know, no one reached out to them, mainly because in Powdur's doc, she says, Shylily and Alice about make the decision to post the docs publicly on Twitter, no point where Sinder and Redacted contacted privately. Shylily said once, but like, where, when. She does not elaborate on it. So it's just take her word for it, which already is, I don't know about that. It's, how did she do it? Does anyone know? If someone knows, please tell me. Because otherwise, all I can do is just take her at her word. She did once. Whatever that means. And then if you go to Bow's doc, go all the way down to Bow's doc, there's the question, why aren't you solving this privately? If you look at the timeline of events from Nano's document, some of these messages date back years. I found out about this less than 48 hours ago, and they did not give me common courtesy of talking to me privately about this over those years. My thoughts, feelings, my most vulnerable, darkest moments that I had shared in confidence with people I thought would be by side years and years from now may have been used as information to ruin my chances to have the same VTuber model as someone I thought was my friend, and I don't know how I can ever be the same after this. Here's the freaking problem with that. Did you know that those messages were supposed to be made in private with confidence? Those messages between Nanoless and Redacted were not made to literally see the light of day. They were made in confidence privately. They were just made in private. This is just a private message between Nanoless and Redacted. And even Powdur has a statement about that. If we go over here, go all the way down in Powdur's doc, she has a statement about this. Stating, Nano leaking DMs. Learning that Nano leaked DMs between one of her clients, Redacted Sinder, to other clients such as Shylily and others is both careless and inexcusable, and I agree to that. That is horribly amateurish. This is petty behavior. This is wrong behavior for a professional artist. It should raise serious concerns about concerns and plant doubt in the minds of anyone who she works with. Is this really how she chooses to end professional relationships? By leaking private conversations to other clients and publicly shaming them through Google Docs, and when Sinder and Red attempt to speak with her privately after the initial documents are released, she blocks them. To be charitable to Nano, it's understandable that she might casually mention Red's apparent issue with Shylily, but sharing full conversations the way she did crosses a line. This is bad behavior. This is disgusting, amateur, petty behavior. If you're a professional artist, you need to do better than this. You need to do what Google says. Communicate directly and privately with the client. Be professional and avoid emotional language. If you don't want to work with them, just don't work with them anymore. Just don't bring it up. And the thing is like, why does the public need to know about this? Like, knowing about this isn't going to prevent me from going to Jack in the Box and getting a munchie meal. Why did the public need to know about this? It doesn't make any sense to me. And here's the thing, guys. I will say, in terms of people being manipulated, used, dragged, being sabotaged, if someone is in danger, or someone was wronged really badly, like defamation, right? Defamation by implication, slandered, threatened, you should speak out. And honestly, like, for that those types of situations, I'd say like a Google Doc would be appropriate. Be like, hey guys, I'm being threatened, I need help, I'm being manipulated, defamation by implication, this person is lying about me. Like, I feel like if it's something really, really bad, yes, you need to speak up, such as like threats, you know, implication by defamation, being slandered, being wronged. Now, I would say that what Nano did is bad, regardless. But if you take away the fact, if you take away the title of the doc, if you take away that, saying that she terminated work with Sinder, if you take away that, right, take away the title, all you're left with is, oh, manipulating me, dragging me into draw, sabotage, slandering, and spreading lies about her closest friends. I mean, okay, I guess you could, but the thing is, this document is not credible. Well, I should take that back. This document has flaws, and I need to point them out before we go to my conclusion. The first thing is slandering creators of here. So, first thing, and it's not really a flaw, this really kind of proves it. Redacted says stuff about Bow, right? And here's the thing. Do you see the screenshot right here? The screenshot on January 15th, 2025, 8:29 p.m. All right. Let's go to Bow's doc real quick. Let's go to Bow's doc. Did you know that Bow reuses that screenshot? Did you know that Bow reuses that screenshot? Whoa, that's crazy. There are 2 sentences that wasn't in Nanoless's screenshots. Here you can see Blank one of our friends pretty badly. Blank hurt one of our friends pretty badly and can't really say much more than that since it's not my drama to get into. In the last sentence, again, this is all secret talk, la 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 la. Those 2 sentences aren't even on here. The sentence here is not there. The sentence at the end of the screenshot, it's not there. So that's like tempered screenshots. And then if you go here, Red asked me to cancel one of their closest friends' bow. This is on August 5th, 2024 at 4:13 p.m., right? It's there, right? Okay. The claim that Nano made here is Red asked me to cancel one of their closest friends by canceling work mid-progress. And the thing is that she claims that Redacted asked her to cancel work mid-progress, cancel Bow's model mid-progress, and provides a screenshot to support this. Nowhere in that screenshot does Redacted ever tell Nano to cancel Bow's model mid-progress. If that actually existed, then we would see that verbatim here. But all we're seeing is, oh, did you cancel models? That's not the same as Redacted telling her to cancel models mid-progress. That's a nothing burger. And then here, with the exclusivity and blacklisting of other creators, there is no blacklisting. Blacklisting doesn't require consent. Blacklisting doesn't require the other party's knowledge. This is just the terms and conditions of an exclusivity deal. And then she goes on to say that, oh, Redacted was slandering Shylily. Okay, here's the thing. Redacted simply asked questions. Redacted simply asked questions about Lily, stating this: lately dipping out of collabs they were both a part of at the last minute, and now ghosting her messages. Cinder's raided her a couple times over the past week, and Lily won't acknowledge Sinder by name. By the way, Powdur has links to that, because I'm too lazy to find it myself. And there are links to it here. So the thing is that that's Nanoless and Shylily claims is a slander, right? But there is literal sources here that say, hey, she did these. So, yeah, and you know what? If you really want to, we can watch those videos. But yeah, the videos are here for you to watch, and I encourage you guys to go watch it. But it proves that, hey, that's not slander, because slander is using false accusations. But if it's true, then it's not slander, it's just the truth. So that's what throws me off about this. And then if you go through it, there's even more screenshots here. But the biggest thing that bothers me, is that these screenshots are out of order. So we have, the first screenshot is January 15th, 2025, 8:29 p.m. Then we move on to the same date, 8:42 p.m., then to 8:52 p.m. Then we move down to August 5th, 2024. Then we move on to back to January 15th, 2025. Then we go to April 12th, 2025. Then we stay on April 12th, 2025 up until here, which then it's February 11th, 2025. And then we go back to November 26th, 2023? And then, like, we keep going back in time. These are messages from years ago, but they're out of order, and they don't make sense. Like, the 115 screenshots, it starts here. It starts here. And then it goes back up to this screenshot, down to this screenshot, down to this screenshot, and then back down to this screenshot. These screenshots are out of order. And not only that, if you go to Bow's document, of course, there are screenshots that were tampered. Because Nanoless has used the same screenshots, but it's tampered with. And not only that, there are screenshots in Bow's doc that isn't in Nanoless's doc. This is part of the January 15th, 2025 convo, and this screenshot that you're seeing on the screen isn't here. This is not transparent. This is craftily made. And the more I look at this, the more I'm assuming that this was made this way to create a narrative. So, not only did Nanoless not handle this professionally, did not talk to Sinder and Redacted privately, she not only blocked them, but decided it was a good idea to send these messages to Shylily and everyone that Redacted mentioned, and then make Google Docs over this. And like Powdur said, about Nano leaking DMs. It should raise serious concerns and plant doubt in the minds of anyone she works with. Is this really how she chooses to end professional relationships, by leaking private conversations to other clients and publicly shaming them through Google Docs? And when that's horrible behavior. That is disgusting behavior for a professional artist to do, especially when the flaws that I pointed out kind of shut down some of the accusations here. Again, it is important to speak up if you're in danger, but when you're going to post a Google Doc with holes and everything and false claims, just saying. And what do you mean by false claims, Godfred? Whenever, what is it? Let's see, yeah. Saying, like, slandering Lily. Saying, like, speaking ill of Lily. Yeah, slandering Lily, right here. She says it. Slandering Lily. Here's the thing, right? What Redacted said here on 10:21 p.m. at April 12th, 2025, it's considered true because there are evidences of Shylily dodging collabs, ghosting messages, and all that stuff. So, obviously, if Nanoless decided to handle this privately, we wouldn't even be here. So, did go on a tangent. It was a lot to take in. Threw a lot of information at you. So, let me go ahead and try and wrap this up in a bow. So, the screenshots here are private DMs between Redacted and Nanoless, as stated in Sinder's apology, where she states, hey, most of this was done through Redacted's private DMs. Yes, Nanoless is a professional artist. It's bad to leak private client messages. If you're going to work with someone that leaks private client messages, be very careful because your messages could be next. And publicly announcing termination of a client relationship could be problematic for a few key reasons, such as breach of confidentiality, damage to reputation, and loss of professionalism. And then there are better ways to handle it, such as communicate directly and privately with the client, be professional, avoid emotional language, fulfill all contractual obligations, and maintain client confidentiality, offer assistance with the transition, and learn from the experience. So there's some best practices. And according to Sinder, she didn't talk to Sinder about the termination of work. And then Shylily stating, hey, we handled it once. Talking to Sinder Redacted. I don't know what she's talking about. If people know, feel free to bring it up. And then Bow saying, like, oh, they didn't talk to me about this. Problem is, those messages were never meant to see the light of day. And not only that, if you go up to the top of Powdur's doc, Sinder Redacted weren't contacted privately about this. Of course, Nano blocks them. So that's basically what we talked about here, in a nutshell. So, what does this mean? It means that, yes, it is considered bad for Nanoless to leak private client messages to the public. And yes, it is bad for Nanoless to publicly announce her termination with Sinder to the public. Now, with all of that being said, all the sources I use for this video will be in the description below. I encourage you, the viewer, to go to the source so that way you can come to your own independent conclusion.